Well, hello everyone. I am Douglas Burns with Culturally Creative Travel. Welcome to another podcast talking about travel opportunities, specifically talking about domestic travel opportunities. With me today is Julie Quarry of UnCruise Adventures, which is just a really unique product. And y'all really are. You're unique. I don't think there's anybody like that out there like you, even close to you. You kind of stand in your own space. What is uncruise adventure? I know what a cruise ship is. What's an uncruise?
Right, that's great. Hello, Douglas. Thank you for having me on. And we love to think that we do travel in our own marine lanes in the style in which we travel. Uncruise was an idea that was thought of now 26 years ago by a gentleman by the name of Dan Blanchard. And he is a captain at heart. He knows the Pacific Northwest and Alaska really well. He did a lot of not only sailing on his own vessels, but he was a captain on some commercial vessels. And he had acquired this great portfolio of really special spots in these areas. And he thought, if I could take people to my special spots, get them out in kayaks, get them out in nature, walking, it is really the antithesis of cruising. We're super casual. We are a vessel, as you can see on my Zoom background here. But the idea is no shore excursion lines. We see everything from the decks of the ship, or all the activities, which I'm sure we'll talk about as we move through the program. But it's all about locally sourced food and beyond the norm. In fact, a big part of our demographics are non-cruisers because they want to get out there. They too just don't want to get on a big ship. So it's as we move through, I think there's going to be a lot of uns in our conversation to really describe what we are.
Absolutely. One thing that I've noticed studying up on the product is it seems to be very adventure based. Unlike a traditional cruise ship, you go to a port of call, you get off for 6, 7, 8 hours, and you see the excursion, you do the excursion, or you see the beach, and then you get back on the ship, and then it's the big nighttime entertainment and whatnot. But y'all are much more. It seems to be adventure oriented.
Yeah, well, there's another great unword, right? We are not port centric like you were just describing. We focus more towards the backcountry. Wildlife, history, culture, nature dictate everything that we do on board our vessel. But in the world of travel, there's all sorts of adventure. There's from no adventure, right? Kicking back on that beach and enjoying it, or there's extreme adventure, and uncruise fits in the soft adventure bucket. And really all that means is anybody can do it. We have a team of expedition leaders that are on board to not only plan and manage our daily activities, but certainly teach folks how to do the activities if they're not comfortable with it. So it is definitely about reaching maybe more physically than you would like to or not, or even expanding your horizons mentally and doing something and exploring places maybe you thought you never would be able to.
So for those of us who are not gym rats and don't spend like my brother, he every morning, I swear, I think he runs a half marathon every morning.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
that's not me. That's not my wife.
Right.
I like comfort. I like, a nice glass of wine in the evening. I'm going to be comfortable getting out there with you guys. Is that
You absolutely would be. All of our activities are different level based as well. And the beautiful thing is you don't need to know before you get on our vessel. We handle all that right on the vessel, depending on what type or what we're doing, where we're at, what we're going to do, what activities we have planned for the next day. And then we have different various levels of that. So our nature walks, in other words, are everything from a nice light stroll to a tidal pool to more extremes is what we call bushwhacking, meaning getting out into nature where there are no trails, but really trying to see what's around the corner, maybe following one of the nature trails that were made by wildlife. So Something for everyone.
So it did sound like something for everyone. Well, let's talk a little bit about where you go. And you've got some really wonderful domestic itineraries. So for those people who were recording this in the middle of the pandemic, and we know people are itching to go travel as soon as we can, but everybody I'm talking to is wanting to see what's here in our backyard and travel
Yeah.
domestically. And you have some really unique itineraries. And I believe Alaska is where you guys started. It's what you guys really consider home. And I know you spend a lot of time up in Alaska. Talk to me a little bit about the Alaska product.
That is a really great place to start with our programs. As you mentioned, the birth or the advent of our company was formed up in Alaska with small vessels. And I should share with the audience too, our vessels range from 22 to 86 passengers. So that's only 11 to 40 cabins on board.
It's a little
So
different than the big ship
really
cruises, which
small,
carry
right?
2,000 to 3,000 passengers up
Yeah,
there. You know, for
right.
yeah, that's a very different, going to be a very different experience.
Absolutely. So Alaska was a natural place for us to start, especially that it was Dan's backyard. He knew it so well. And with the Alaska program, because we're small vessels, we start and finish in Alaska. So, Doug, if you were to put someone on our vessel, and one great listening folks out there, you would fly them to either Juneau, Ketchikan, or Sitka. And that's the inside passage. They start and finish in Alaska. So there's no making your way up to Alaska. If you book a 7-night cruise with Doug with UnCruise, you're going to get 7 nights up in Alaskan water. And we choose the inside passage for several reasons, but really the protected waters in which small vessels are so ripe for in that area. The wildlife, the migration of the whales and bear in the spring. We're up there as early as April, and we sail all the way through September. So we're the first company up there and the last one to go back. But again, exploring, if we do go into ports, there are what we call unports. There's another unword. It's not going to be mainstream. It's not going to be, super crowded. It's going to be of a cultural nature, like cake. It's a Tlingit native culture up there. So really finding those unique areas so people can seek not only the great wildlife and beauty up there, but the authentic Alaska. And we're really fortunate. And this is up in my Zoom background here is up in Glacier Bay. And we try to get up there in the wee hours of the morning to wake up to sunrise, the only ship up there. We have itineraries that have 1, 2, and even 3 days in Glacier Bay National Park, which is pretty awesome to get in a kayak in this gorgeous water and float around and,
You can get in a kayak and get close to the glacier.
We do. We go to Lampoon Glacier, and it's all weather dependent, but that's a very popular spot for us. And it's also where we do our polar plunge, is where we jump off the back of the vessel into the icy waters, just so you can say you did it. And I have
There's
not
no
done
other
it.
reason to do it other than to say you
You
did
did
it.
it, yeah, 100%.
Well,
And ask me if I've done it.
I'm assuming you have.
I
Yes.
have not.
Oh.
It's too cold.
Something tells me somebody back in the home office is gonna catch you on that and make
Yeah,
you do that
right.
next time you're up there.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell people who may have not been up to Alaska before and are looking to. I've done Alaska via big ship, and it's a beautiful way to see Alaska, and it's a great way to see it. But when we did the glaciers, we couldn't get that close. We're in a big ship, and so we're still, half a football length or more
Sure.
from these glaciers, and the thought of being able to get into a kayak to go. I know you probably don't get right next to it for safety reasons,
Oh,
but
right.
to be able to get that much closer to it, and you're there at sea level then, and you can see all the sea life at sea level versus from your balcony stateroom 15 stories up.
You're exactly right, and that holds true with all of our viewing. You can see the decks of the ship here. We're just 1 story off the vessel. And the cool thing is our expedition vessels are designed for viewing. So we don't have major suites in the middle of the vessel and prime view area taking up that space. We have 360-degree decks that you can walk around and check out. If there's whales off our port side, it's 15 paces to get on the port side versus trying to navigate through So we have most of our inventory up in Alaska, April through September. We do various itineraries. We do round trip Juneau. We do have a Sitka Juneau. We also have a Ketchikan to Juneau. So there's something to see for everyone. And believe it or not, we have people come back time and time again to try the various itineraries and want to ask why. I mean, there's so many other places that we go to, and often it's because you never see the same thing twice. It's just so Mother Nature driven that it just really offers so much in these beautiful waters.
It's really worth taking the time to see Alaska as Alaska. It's America's last frontier,
Yeah.
and you're getting the chance here to see it with you guys as a frontier wilderness, and going where the big ships can't go. And I think that's an important distinction for most folks. I mean, and I like Ketchikan, and Sitka is one of my favorite towns in all of
Me
Alaska. I
too.
would move up
Yeah.
there if I thought I could make a living up there. But to be able to see the backcountry, you don't see the backcountry on the big ships.
That is correct. They just can't get, they certainly can. It's not, it's a terrific, as you mentioned, wonderful experience to get to do that if that's your style. But if you're looking to find something, if you're the type of traveler that wants to get into the backcountry, they don't want to be tourists. I'm kind of going down our demographic route, but it tends to be clients or customers that aren't tourists. They don't want to be tourists. They want to find authentic things. They want to have access to it's not a cheap trip either. So if you're paying a lot of money, you better see a lot of cool stuff. So we make sure they do that. So it's really a tremendous and a lifetime experience for most all our guests.
Well, going down the coastline a little bit, you also sail. I noticed it looks like you've got a beautiful itinerary there in Puget Sound and the San Juan Islands. There, a round trip out of Seattle. Talk to me a little bit about the Northwest Pass, not the Northwest Passage, but the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, and here's the beautiful thing. It's right out of our backyard. Our home base headquarters is out of Seattle, Washington, right there at Fisherman's Terminal. And so all of our ships reside there. I probably failed to mention that our ships are U.S. flagged, so we can leave right out of a U.S. port. That's pretty meaningful for us, especially in this day and age with all that's going on. So we're able to leave right out of Juneau, Ketchikan, or Sitka, or right out of Seattle. And because we have that opportunity, you start right at Fisherman's Terminal. You go through the Ballard Locks to get from that freshwater into the saltwater out to the Puget Sound. And then it's stunning. It's absolutely a beautiful itinerary. We used to just do it in the spring and the fall. But Doug, your listeners are one of the first to know this. I just got the product announcement last week. We're going to run this itinerary. It's going to be a 5-night, 6-day itinerary all summer long.
Oh wow!
So in 2021. So
Oh wow! That's
yeah,
exciting. That's exciting
cool.
news.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. It's the area we know so well. Our captains and crew were born and raised in that area, and it offers not only the great wildlife and beauty, but a lot of really cool culinary stuff, like the shellfish from the area, the microbrews from the area, and we'll be sure to taste all of that as well as drink in all the gorgeous beauty of that area. But San Juan Islands, Olympic National Park, just getting to some remote, beautiful inlets, Deception Pass, the Salish Islands, San Juan Islands. It's just going to be a outdoor person paradise. So
And here again, we're talking protected waters. We're not out in the open ocean.
right.
So very easy sailing conditions for the most part. For those who are maybe worried about ocean sickness or motion sickness, it's not like the big waves out on the open sea.
You're right. And I do get that question a lot. Like, I love this idea, but I don't know. Will I get seasick? And the beautiful thing is we always operate under protected waters. That's why you would fly to the destination, such fly to Alaska instead of having us cruise up there.
Well, I can't talk about UnCruise Adventures without looking at your Snake and Columbia River option. And you do something. I mean, there's a lot of companies that do the Snake and Columbia rivers, and they're wonderful products. But y'all have something that's a little different and a little unique, and that's the ship itself. It's
Yeah.
a restored the SS Legacy, the restored steamship. That's it's a different product. It's a historical product. I think it's going to give people who are interested in history and living a portion of history a really unique glimpse into the region.
Yeah, that's a wonderful way to tee up this program because that vessel does shine so well on the rivers down there because of how she looks and how she feels. That itinerary to me is the most diverse out of all of our itineraries because the rivers have so much to offer. Again, a great if for those listeners out there looking to even try cruising for the first time, this would be a really great one. It's right on the river. You easy flight access into Portland, Oregon. That's where we start right out of the city there. So beautiful place. Going into Astoria, going to, it's got all the great navigation of going through the 8 lock and dam systems up to all the way up to Idaho. Lewis and Clark, that great history, Americana history of Lewis and Clark making their trek from, St. Louis out to the Pacific Ocean. Amazing nature walks in Multnomah Falls and the Rowena Plateau, just fantastic itineraries to get out and stretch your leg. Again, all different levels. It doesn't matter if you just want to meander, if you want to do a little hard charger, we'll gauge that right on board the vessel. Getting out in the kayaks up in the Palouse area. So much to do. We have even a Nez Perce native that comes on board to talk about their people in the area and how they sustained and really help Lewis and Clark too navigate the water. So just so much to see and do on the rivers, and it's all included, like all of our itineraries. Everything that we have is all inclusive. So that's sort of the other of UnCruise as well. We just make it nice and easy, and people can participate or not on anything that they would like.
And I noticed y'all have you got a little something for everybody. You've got a culinary based themed itinerary up there, and that speaks to my heart. And of course, way to a man's heart through his stomach, right? So, but you have a chance to explore the culinary region, which is extremely diverse in the area. But you also have the opportunity to get as active as you want to be. I noticed that in addition to the kayaking, it looked like you had some river rafting options and some hiking options for those who wanted to be more active and get more into the backcountry.
Yes, in fact, I didn't even mention those. So thank you. We do a great float trip down the Deschutes River that's included. Everyone does participate. It has enough rapids that you feel like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, but not enough to scare you. And the culinary, not only with the food, but with all the great wineries along the river, the kombucha, the ciders, right, that are coming across the rivers. That area was full of apple orchards and different types of fruit orchards. So it's got that robust agriculture flair to it. And then a lot of these apple orchards and orchards just in general are putting in wineries because they have found that it's just an ideal temperate place to grow grapes. So it has just been such a fine area to explore. So those are the other diverse things that we do in that area. All of our food in the Columbia and Snake River as well is all farm to table. It's grown locally. We source locally. So that's a really fun itinerary to check out the cheeses and the fruits and all the great culinary that's grown along the river there. So it's a pretty awesome itinerary.
Well, talking about farm to table, rounding out your your domestic offerings, your domestic itineraries is Hawaii, and y'all do something that's rather unique in the industry there in Hawaii. Of course, it's a 4-island cruise, but it's not necessarily the islands that everybody thinks about. And I think it's a part of Hawaii that here again most people don't see, and the culinary inclusions because Hawaii has a fascinating culinary history that I've noticed that you really do try to incorporate that into your itinerary and the cruise.
Yeah, it's equally as important. Look, at everybody loves to travel and food, and I think it's one of those international languages that we all can understand is food. You know, we get it. We get to taste their culture. We may not speak their language, but certainly in Hawaii, we are so proud of this itinerary. Our owner Dan started courting, especially the island of Molokai, 3 years before we started sailing down there, because it was a really important island for us, being the UnCruise way. We wanted to again get out of the mainstream. So you would fly your clients to either Kona or Molokai, and then we also visit Lanai and Maui. And Kona, because of its diversity, is just killer, from the black sandy beaches all the way up to the volcanoes and everything in between. And we haven't even talked about the great water, all the marine life in the water. But really important are those Maui County islands, and that's Molokai, Lanai, and Maui. It's a very shallow waters in that area, and that promotes the humpback whale sanctuary and the breeding, the mating and giving birth of the humpbacks. So it's really fascinating when we follow the wildlife, especially from Alaska down into Hawaii. Those whales aren't eating, they're just mating and giving birth. So when they get up to Alaskan waters, they are hungry and they have to put on copious amount of weight to not only nurse but also get ready to make that migration again. So it's really fantastic. We'll do a 7-night, 8-day, and it's on our 36-passenger yacht, so only 18 cabins. Again, we can leave out of Hawaiian waters because we're U.S. flag. And we'll be on and off every island. And we have all of our toys with us. We have our kayaks, our nature walks, we have our zodiacs, we have our stand-up paddleboard. So we are in and out of the water. And a big part of that program is snorkeling. So we have snorkel gear that's for everybody to use. Our expedition team will outfit all the guests on board. Day one or early day two, they'll make sure their mask fit, their snorkel, their fins. And once they have all that great stuff, they can keep it throughout the entire voyage, right? There's nothing worse trying to refit your mask or try to
No,
find
no,
that snorkel.
and no worried about having left it at home, didn't fit in your
Right,
luggage.
right.
Now, for those who are maybe not as comfortable snorkeling, last time I went snorkeling in the Gulf of Mexico, I think I ingested half the Gulf, and that was only on a little 4-hour cruise. For those who might be a little uncomfortable in this, and obviously all your guys are going to be safety trained, but what can you do for those who might be a little hesitant getting into the water? Because let's face it, being in the water in Hawaii to see the marine life, that's a big part of the adventure.
It is absolutely 50% of what we see is underneath that water line. So it's really important. And we really would like to get everybody in that safest mindset possible so they can enjoy it as well. So I mentioned, much like our kayaking, our expedition leaders will teach our guests how to snorkel. Or snorkeling tends to be one of those things like, yeah, I did it 10 years ago when I was whatever. So, just a refresher course, or if you've never done it before, they will literally handhold you. We always have, everybody has to wear a life jacket, when they snorkel with us, but we also have other flotation devices that help them. But our team will literally hold their hand and snorkel with them for their comfort. But we always do a 101, whether it's in kayak or in snorkeling, for that reason, because there's just so much underneath that waterline. We don't want people to miss out.
And that's very important for people to understand. Safety is absolutely important, but the education part of how to do some of these activities safely is fabulous. We're talking today with Julie with UnCruise Adventures. We're talking about all the wonderful places that they see and do, and the different way that they do it. We've talked a little bit about this earlier, but I want to bring back to it because you are so activity centric, whether it being in the water snorkeling or kayaking or hiking through the backwoods or literally blazing your own trail through the backwoods of Alaska. How fit does someone need to be in order to get on board your ship? I mean, do we have to worry about, I've been checked out by the doctor and I'm running every day and I've been, spending a couple hours in the gym? Or can, the average Joe who maybe has hiked 6 years ago down to the grocery store and back, will he be comfortable coming on board?
Absolutely. Everything in between. And that's where that soft adventure bucket fits so beautifully with our activities. So, and even if there's, oftentimes we get like a couple on board. One is really active and wants to do everything, and one is like chill. It's I want to sit back on the vessel and maybe read a book or just enjoy, because we're right in the middle of this great wilderness. And that's what makes this program so wonderful, is camaraderie is instant with small group travel. And you are able to customize once you get back on, or once you're on the vessel, you can customize your day to however you want to do it. If you want to go out kayaking, you can. If you want to go hiking, oftentimes my husband and I will end up like, well, I really want to go hiking. Well, I really want to go kayaking. All right, we'll see you at lunch. And camaraderie is so instant, which is beautiful if for your single or your solo clients. Families are fantastic, but your solo clients would be a perfect fit for our program, because the camaraderie is super instant and it's just lends so well for everybody customizing their day however they would like. If anybody has any concern, they can always talk to our expedition leaders. Once our expedition leaders talk about the programming or what we're going to do for that day, they're going to come to each one of our guests on board and take their adventure order. And that's a beautiful time for your clients to ask those questions. Like, I just had knee surgery last year. I can do really well. I can hike maybe a mile, or, I do really well on flat surfaces, but it's just, those inclines or declines, what hike is best for me. And they will walk them and talk them through all of that to make sure they design a perfect day just for them.
Well, what does a typical day look? And I mean, as diverse as your offerings are, and as diverse as Mother Nature is, almost I don't know that you have a typical day, but what does a typical day kind of look like on an uncruise?
On an uncruise, so the more you'll wake up, and typically people, because people are out party, we usually get them. Everyone usually crashes relatively early. People get up nice, bright, and early, and we have um, a continental breakfast that's available for super early risers. Those folks that love to get up at 6 and they don't want to miss a thing, especially in Alaska. There's so much daylight. So we find that people get up super early, but we'll have that up in the lounge for people to go, maybe some fresh fruit, some, home baked goods, oatmeal, things like that. And then we'll open up the dining room at around 7 o'clock for a menu based service. It's super informal. It just, there's another we don't have assigned seating. You can sit with whomever or wherever you would like. And then after breakfast, after the breakfast, people start getting ready for their activities depending on what they signed up for the night before. And maybe I should backtrack a little bit. The night before, we will do just as I mentioned. The expedition leaders will talk about the day's activities. The expedition leaders will then come and take your adventure order. And then while we're all up at dinner, the expedition team has their big board, and they're placing everybody where they've requested. So after we're done with dinner, we go look at that big board and find out what time we're going to do our activity based on what we signed up for. So fast forward after breakfast, we do a morning activity, and we usually have 3 going on in the morning. So it'll be, for instance, kayaking, getting out in that Zodiac, or a nature walk. A Zodiac is another terrific way to see a whole lot of ground without a whole lot of physical activity. So that's a nice popular one. So after morning activities, we all come back and we eat lunch in the dining room. And then in the afternoon, we'll have 3 other activities that we can do. So nobody misses out. So if people really want to kayak, but they also want to do a nature walk, they'll always give that opportunity throughout the day. And then, although if we're going to be in South Marble Island, we may be cruising to check out the wildlife. And the captain and the crew are always on watch for wildlife. So if we're up in Admiralty Island and we see a pod of whales, we may take a moment to route over to check out the whales right from the decks of the ship. And
That
then
is
we
one thing I
have,
did notice. It seemed like because you're so open to Mother Nature and watching, the itinerary may change slightly. It seems
yeah,
like y'all have that freedom to say, well, we're not on a set schedule. If we want to spend an extra hour looking at this pot of whales or this pot of dolphins or what have you, y'all have the freedom to do that.
you bet you. And that's the fun of it. We have a course to which to deviate from is really our motto. And when we deviate, it's always for a really good reason because we found some pretty fantastic wildlife. All of our ships are talking with each other. We've got 6 of them up there during the season. So if there's something pretty incredible happening, they'll certainly radio and say, "Hey, you got to check out Admiralty Island. There's a family of black bear on the shore." Um, or if the pot of whales is pretty fantastic. I was up there last year and I had 3 hours watching bubble net feeding, where it's a great feeding habit of the humpback whales.
How cool.
Yeah, it's just awesome. It's really awesome.
Yeah. Now, what about in the evening after dinner? We talked about the I was about to say port talk, but we talked about the adventure talk for the next day. What about evening entertainment on board? Because here again, it's an uncruise. We don't have the big show lounges and the big
And
Broadway numbers.
casinos and right, yeah. So after dinner, everybody makes their way back up to the lounge and grabs a fabulous included beverage of their choice. And the bartender's always whipping up something fantastic. And then we'll typically have an evening presentation, and they are done by our expedition leaders. So let's say we're going to be in Point Adolphus, where the humpback whales are more prevalent. Then we will have a talk about humpback whales, or we'll talk about Glacier Bay. And once we're moving to Glacier Bay, people are fascinated by Glacier Bay. It's one of those places that we've been able to, since John Muir or even Captain Vancouver had sailed in that area, and the ice was 60 feet from where, or 60 miles from where it sits today in this photo that's behind me. The succession of and the knowledge of plant life and life that lives in this bay is fascinating. So we'll always have those sorts of talks. And then after that, everyone kind of wraps up their day and gets ready for the next morning. With the exception, if there are an early spring and late fall, if you're sailing with us, the likelihood of the aurora borealis is pretty good in Southeast. So you can be put, if you sign up on a list that we can wake you, we have permission to wake you. We often would, maybe at 3 a.m, you may get the aurora borealis is out if you'd like to check it out. And people are out in their pajamas and their jackets and just checking it out on board.
And I know
So
that's a highlight and a bucket list item for so many people.
yes, myself included, right.
Well, we talked several times about the food, and because you can't talk about food, you can't talk about travel and cruising without talking about food. It is part of it's part of the experience, and we've talked about how you source your food locally. But what's the culinary options on board? I mean, I'm assuming we can handle all the major food requests and allergy requests and whatnot on board. But what are your chefs like? I mean, are we talking high end 5-star luxury dining, or are we talking comfort food?
So I would say the food is going to, it's all farm to table. So it's luxury in that the types of food that we get on board is, if you are that culinary type that really dig that, if that's important to you, if you love to taste the fresh fish from, let's just use Alaska again as an example. If you want that fresh produce from the local area, if you want fresh baked goods on board, if that's your jam, then this is definitely a trip for you. It is. We are really, really proud of our culinary program. Hawaii, Alaska, and some of the other destinations that we go to, we source most everything locally. So you would expect a local flair with the fresh ingredients of the area. If there is a dietary need, Of course, as you mentioned, we definitely can handle that. And the cool thing about sailing on a small vessel like UnCruise, if you do have a dietary need, the chef will be talking to you every day. Like, today we have this, we would like to offer that. Will that work? Or, can we do this, or we'll do that? So you have this one-on-one relationship with the chef throughout the entire voyage to make sure that just because you have a dietary difference than the general passengers on board, your experience is going to be just as amazing. So it's really a special place to really taste your way through every destination that we go to.
And with the food being farm to table, you're talking about extremely fresh produce, extremely fresh fish and meats, everything I'm assuming in season, the way we probably should be eating normally, but we don't.
Right. Yeah. You're right. Last year when I was up in Alaska, we were docked in Sitka, and all of a sudden this crab truck pulls up, and boxes of fresh Dungeness crab were handed to our chef.
Yum.
And we're like, oh my gosh. I mean, if you're not allergic to seafood, it's pretty awesome to have fresh Dungeness crab or fresh salmon or halibut or coho salmon or whatever's on the menu. We'll always have a fish. We'll always have a meat. We're going to always have a vegetarian option for dinner. And oftentimes people will go half and half, or you know what, I want to try maybe the vegetarian for a table share, and then I'm going to get half fish, half meat, because they often all are really good choices. So we are always open and welcome people to try all the dishes should they like to.
And there's nothing better than sharing food across the table. I don't care what part of the world you're in, you can share food across the table, join out of the same dish. That's a great way to expand friendships and thoroughly explore who you're spending time with. We've talked about these being small ships, and they are small ships. What's your typical passenger count on the? I mean, and I know that you've got a variety of ship sizes, but on average, what are we talking? How many people on board, and what is your typical guest like?
So our two smallest vessels are 22 and 36 passenger vessels, and they're going to be Alaska or Hawaii on our 36. And those vessels are sort of stand out, and then we move up into the 60 range, 60, 70, and our largest being a whole 86. So it really is a very small, intimate group on all the vessels. Maybe surprising, maybe not, but our 22 and our 36 passenger vessels are chartered quite a bit by families. So any charter clients out there, call Doug. It's really milestone anniversaries, birthdays, retirements, people that just love to get together. Remember, it's only 11 cabins on our smallest, and it really makes it intimate. They can customize the program on board. It's theirs, especially in light of, of what's going on with Corona or COVID right now. People are really digging the idea of chartering vessels for their family. It's their family. They can go up. They're not going to stop traveling. They want to travel. They want to see these areas. So it's a really big hit for us.
And with only 11 or 12 cabins on board, that's not going to be hard to fill up that ship.
Right. Yeah.
But you do have some ships that are a little bit larger in the fleet, even especially in Alaska. What are we talking maximum passenger
86.
Count?
86 passengers is our max. That's on that steam that one that looks like a steamboat.
On the Legacy.
Yes. On the Legacy. So she's 86 passengers, and she would be our largest. All of our cabins on all of our ships are outside. So for cruisers listening that are used to maybe an inside versus an outside cabin, that is not anything that we have on board our vessels. They're all outside cabins. Great view windows on all the vessels. Really great access to the marine life, getting in and out, all comfortable. They're expedition ships, though. So if someone is looking for super high-end, fancy amenities, we're all about expedition and keeping things comfortable on board the vessels. They certainly all have their separate heads in the cabins, things of that. We're not that primitive, but it's not about getting into your cabin and hanging out there the entire vessel or entire voyage. It's getting out. We have bow cameras on board too. So if we're in an area, there might be something happening underneath the water line. We can view that. We also have hydrophones. So if there's whales that are singing, we can drop the hydrophones in so we can listen to the whales underneath the water line. So lots of pretty cool stuff on
Some
board.
really neat toys there. Well, what about families? I mean, we are, I'm assuming this sounds like summer camp in many respects, and I can't imagine there's a kid out there that would not want to go do some of this stuff, or mom and dad that wants to pull the Game Boy out of their hands and say, you know what, let's go see what life looks like. I mean, this is a family-friendly cruise, is it not?
It is. I love to use the word summer camp. That's perfect. It really is. And we are unplugged so you can connect. And I know that may sound cheesy, but it is. Dan has been a firm believer on making sure that the guests on board connect in every way and don't miss out. So it is prime for families for sure. We do limit the kids on board. No one under 8, unless it's a charter. Then you can have any age you would like, but no one under 8, but 8 to 13 would receive a $500 discount on the voyage. But it is a great way for either kids, mom and dad, or multi-gen with grandma, grandpa, or grandparents on board. Everyone's learning. Everybody is seeking and learning, and who doesn't want? I mean, there's SeaWorld right in front of us, so it's everything that you can imagine. We keep everybody very busy, and it's really neat to see families bond. Families don't bond anymore, although I guess we have in the last 30 days or 60 days.
Well, maybe a little too much bonding.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I want to kind of wrap this up because we've talked several times about this is included, that's included.
Mm.
It's a very inclusive product. Is there anything that's not included in your passage fare?
It is, in fact, you are such a great interviewer. I mean, you just are nailing everything, honestly, because I say it's easier for me to tell you what's not included versus what is included. So what's not included would be your airfare to and from the destination, because remember, you do need to fly to the destination in which we sail. Any gratuities that your clients or your guests or the listening audience would like to extend out to our vessel crew. And else insurance, but we're all savvy travelers and we know how important insurance is to purchase. But I'm trying to think. Insurance, airfare, gratuities. I think that's it. Everything else is from all the beverages on board, all the activities, the expedition leaders.
Once you're on board, leave your wallet in your pocket,
board,
and you're good to go. I mean, your drinks are included, your meals obviously are included. Everything you're just there. It's just for you to go play with.
Yes.
We talk about. There's a big talk in the travel industry about the all-inclusive vacation, and everybody tends to think of the resorts down in the Caribbean, and they're great vacations, especially if you're just a beach bum and you want to lie on the beach and drink that Mai Tai or margarita, what have you. But here's another all-inclusive vacation where you can quite literally get your feet wet and see part of the country and a part of nature that most of us never get a chance to see. And I think that's just a fabulous opportunity, and a fabulous travel opportunity, a chance to spend some quality time with your kids, show your kids a slice of life that they probably will never see otherwise, especially since most of us live in the big city, or get together with friends and family, or have a group vacation, charter a vessel, and play on your own. And this being an American-owned company, American flagship, purchasing your goods onshore from local suppliers. What a great way to support local economy while still traveling and having a just incredible vacation experience. I think this is an unbelievable opportunity, and people, you need to call me and let me tell you more about it and show you how wonderful this is. We've been talking today with Julie with UnCruise Adventures. Julie, I'm going to leave it up to you. I'm going to give you the opportunity to give us some final thoughts on UnCruise Adventures and what people really need to know, the key takeaways they need to know when thinking about your product and how it might fit their vacation needs and desires.
That's terrific. Thank you. And be careful. I might be calling you for a sales job because you do a fantastic job. And that's what you get with a travel pro like you, Doug. I mean, it's so important to work with a travel professional, not only to make sure all the details are taken care of, but also to learn about products like UnCruise. You know, we're that specialty or that niche product out there that without partners like you wouldn't people wouldn't learn about. They wouldn't know that we're out there. So we can't thank you enough for not only hosting us, but introducing UnCruise to listeners that maybe have never heard of us. So, final thoughts. I would say, especially, I don't know how long this recording is going to be out in the world, but certainly in light of what's going on right now, Doug, you and I talk a lot about immediacy for travel as we navigate through what's going on. There'll probably be a lot of in-state travel, and then next phase is going to be in country. The U.S. folks are going to stay within U.S. and learn a lot and explore the beautiful United States and what we have to offer here. Many people, thousands of people travel into the U.S. abroad just to see this gorgeous country. So we are just happy and delighted to be able to show our little slice of the pie of it. If you're the travel out there that's more affluent, you're not a tourist, you really want to see a unique area in a unique way, do it very casually, we would be a perfect program for you to check into and find out if there's one of our programs that would really work for you. We're really proud to be stewards of every land that we go to. You said it so eloquently when you were talking about how we do support and sustain the local economy, or try to as much as we can. I always say we were sustainable even before sustainable became a thing in the industry, but it's true. I mean, it's really important for us. The values that Dan has put forth 26 years ago still hold today. And I will tell you, the most proud moment of working for a company like UnCruise is they haven't forgotten the customer experience. And that's really important. That is the number one thing. If you're sitting in our boardroom in Seattle, Washington, and we're talking about our program, we act as if we have guests right in the room with us. And that's always a big value, to make sure that we deliver that guest experience that people are longing to see, and make sure that we fulfill that bucket list for them. So I thank you for introducing this company out to your great clients and your listeners.
Well, Julie, I can't thank you enough for coming on today and telling us all about the product and how wonderful and unique UnCruise Adventures truly is in the travel industry. Folks, if you are at all interested in an UnCruise adventure, give me a call. Telephone number 713-688-6793, or you can email me and visit us on the website. The website, of course, is culturallycreativetravel.com. Love to talk to you about UnCruise Adventures or wherever you may want to travel next. So thanks for joining us. Julie, thanks again, and we will see you folks down the road.
Thank you, Doug.